This is Ryan Parrish, and you're listening to my chapter of As the Story Grows.
Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, I'm excited to welcome back Ryan Parrish to the podcast. Having Ryan on the show is special to me. Outside of my love for Hopesfall, Ryan's chat with Travis in 2016, almost exactly 4 years ago, was the very first episode of As the Story Grows I worked on as an editor. It was through that episode and a mini relationship with Ryan that I got to release In Parallel's Broken Codes on vinyl via my record label, Something Beautiful. Ryan was supposed to be the 200th chapter of the podcast, but COVID delayed that episode, and I decided to re-record with Ryan, and I'm glad I did because this turned out even better than our original conversation back in May. So thanks, Ryan. If you're a big Hopesfall fan, After Dark is back on the Patreon page this week, and I rip off the guys in discography discussion to chat about Hopesfall's discography and give my take on all the albums and what they mean to me. So if you're a patron, you won't want to miss that. And if you're interested in checking that out, $1 a month gets you the After Dark Patreon podcast. Patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Ryan chats about rejoining Hopesfall and the music they're creating now. And then we chat about the new In Parallel record Fashioner, which is out this Friday, September 4th via Wiretap Records. So enjoy this week's conversation with my friend, Ryan Parrish. Let's start with earlier this year, maybe it was late last year, it was announced you rejoined Hopesfall. What led to you being back in the Hopesfall fold?
Oh, yeah. I got a call from Josh and Adam. Josh plays guitar and Adam's the drummer. And they had floated out the idea of me possibly writing with them again, mainly due to Dustin had left the band and decided that he wanted to kind of move on and do some of his own stuff. And that was kind of really, that was it. It was that simple. It was just a phone call. And then from there, it was just working out the logistics because, they're still in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I grew up. And I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So it's about a 7.5 hour drive, to get back and forth. But, we committed to getting in a room and seeing if it felt natural. I think that was my biggest concern was like coming back after as a writer. I mean, we did the 2011 reunion shows with the No Wings lineup, but, we were just playing old material. So it was a little less intimidating. I already knew how to play those songs. So, coming back in creatively as a writer 16 or 17 years after the fact, I was a little bit nervous about it. But, drove to Charlotte for a long weekend, and we got in the room, and, I felt like we banged out the first song like super fast, like really fast. It just kind of felt, for me to have that much time away from the band, and I was a little bit intimidated, but it just felt very normal, felt kind of like no time had passed in a way, as crazy as that sounds. You know, the four of us, you know, meaning the instrumentation of the band, generally Hopesfall songs, that's where they start, and then vocals kind of come along towards the end of the process. But, you know, the four of us have always had good chemistry in writing, you know, the musical portions of things, and then Jay, you know, comes in with lyrics and melody and kind of adds his touch to it. But, you know, it was really fun, you know, after getting over those initial nerves, really fun just hopping back on that bike. Yeah, it was just fun, you know?
Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier today. After that 2011 reunion stint of those two shows, was there ever any conversation then that, hey, maybe it would be fun to do this again back in 2011?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, personally speaking, the 2011 shows were really fun and really healing for me as a person, just being able to kind of go back to the band and play those songs again in front of, you know, people that really cared about the band. And, you know, those shows were really good. The crowd energy was really strong, and yeah, it tugged at me a little bit. But I knew there was so much baggage at the time with Hopesfall and the name, and all the history that the band had been through, that I think it was seen as kind of a one-off thing. You know, simultaneously while we were rehearsing for those shows, you know, Josh, Adam, and Dustin were writing the material that would become Arbiter. So I don't think they knew it at the time. I think they were just messing around and just trying to write some songs for the fun of it. And, you know, what is that, like 6-7 years later, if I think I've got the timeline right, Equal Vision came along and you know, made an offer, and they had that batch of songs for Arbiter ready to go. So, you know, in a way, it was like we were on the same path. You know, we were doing the No Wings thing, and in the background, those three guys were writing Arbiter. I can't remember if Chad was involved in writing some of that. I don't know fully there. He may have come in later on, but in a way, Hopesfall was happening without everyone's knowledge. I think, you know, Josh has told me, and at the time they wanted to just release whatever those songs were as under a different name and maybe find a new vocalist. You know, because Jay was up in Chicago, pretty far away, where he lives. But when the opportunity, you know, was put in front of them, it kind of made sense. Well, this really is, you know, one era of Hopesfall, so we should call it that. And, you know, Arbiter had such a warm reaction, and rightfully so. It's a really great album. You know, I think they felt that momentum, and then when Dustin, you know, kind of hung his hat, so to speak, I think they wanted to continue some of that momentum, and that's kind of where I came in.
That's awesome. You guys released Hall of the Sky earlier this year. Just a tremendous single. It's still in constant rotation on my playlist. And
thanks, man.
Everyday listening and running soundtracks and whatnot. And what's the future? You did the one single. Is there more in the works?
Yeah, there's more in the works. I mean, pre-COVID world, yes. You know, COVID is, you know, ground everything to a halt there. You know, my last trip actually that I took was to North Carolina to rehearse, and that was in February. So that was right before lockdown hit in March. So, but, you know, I don't know how much I can say, but there are other songs recorded besides Hall of the Sky. I don't know if I can provide details on if and when those are going to come out.
Sure.
You know, if it does come out, I think it's going to be a really special release, especially for some of the diehards who have been with us from the beginning, from the late 90s. But yeah, there's a couple other songs already in the hopper. I feel like they all kind of stand on their own and are different than Hall. Hall's pretty epic and a really long song, probably the longest song I think in the band's history. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but the other two are a lot, not a lot shorter, but shorter for Hopesfall. I'd say more action-packed, maybe. Very concise songs. But, I was texting, we're on a text thread together, all of us, and we were texting up. I was asking for an update today or yesterday. I can't remember which, but all the days run together right now. But yeah, hopefully we'll get those other songs out soon-ish. I don't know if the label's, playing things close to the vest because of the pandemic and kind of seeing how all that stuff plays out. But I think it'll be special when it does. And, who knows what this post-pandemic world's going to look like. I think, if we can get back in a room together, the five of us, I think we'll try to make that happen. They drove out to Nashville several times to kind of keep things equitable and not keeping me on the road all the time, which was awesome of them. And so we rehearsed in my house, in my studio, and then I would drive. We kind of trade trips back and forth, to get things written. So yeah, the kind of my perspective is wait and see, and if it makes sense and we can fit it into everybody's schedules and lives, then let's try to keep doing it,
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, Hall of the Sky's the longest Hopesfall song, a minute plus longer than Broken Heart of a Traitor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
There you go.
Yeah, I like long songs, I guess. I mean, all of us do, but yeah, that was a fun one, man. That was a really fun song to put together, and I think that was the second song we wrote, after those first sessions. So the first one is yet to be released, and that one definitely to me has kind of a there's definitely some nods to No Wings on it, I feel like, which is really fun.
Let's move to In Parallel now.
Yeah.
You guys are releasing your second EP, Fashioner, this week on Wiretap Records. That was not in the works back when you guys were going to originally release the album.
Yeah.
COVID fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Hit you guys personally. And I guess the benefit is you get this relationship with Wiretap. How did that relationship with Wiretap come about?
Well, it's good. That's a good segue because, one of those last rehearsals with Hopesfall, I was just chatting with the guys and playing them some of the new EP. And Adam's a massive vinyl enthusiast, and I feel like he always has his finger on the pulse with what's happening in that world. And I was like, dude, do you know of any like smaller labels that would work with, a band that isn't gonna hop in the van, so to speak? And his first suggestion was like, dude, you should hit up Wiretap. I think they'd be a great fit. And I was aware of Wiretap, but I think it's it always means more when you have that personal connection of someone saying, hey, you should check them out. So I believe Adam hooked me up with Rob's contact info, and I just sent Rob a blind email with a private SoundCloud link to the EP, and was like, look, man, we're wanting to get this out, and we would love to have some help, because right now it's the four of us doing everything in our free time, which is difficult. We all have kids and jobs, and Rob wrote me back pretty quickly and was like, look, I'm really intrigued. Let me listen to it. Let me sit with it. But, with the pandemic going on, it's kind of frozen some things for me right now. So, I didn't hear anything from him after that email for probably a month and a half for 2 months. I can't really remember exactly, but I can't remember if I sent him a follow-up email or if he just followed back up with me and he said, hey, let's hop on a call and chat through this and see if it might be a good fit. So, we hopped on a Zoom call with Rob and hit it off immediately. Just a super down-to-earth, really great guy. And he caught the vision for Fashioner, and it felt like a good marriage. We didn't want to put it out on just any label just to do that. I think if we would have had a conversation that was awkward or didn't feel right, we would have just continued to self-release it. But, having Rob's help has been, it's been really beneficial for a small band like us, just to help get more eyes on it, which he's been able to do. And being able to hand over some of the logistical aspects of things like shipping the records and that type of thing has been super helpful.
That's cool. You guys recorded this album in your house, in your new basement studio. What was this process like compared to Broken Codes?
Oh, it's night and day, man. Broken Codes was, it was trial and error when we were making that thing. It was me, Lance, and Jesse, just the three of us trying to figure out how to be a band, first of all, without a drummer. And, learning new technology that we had never used before as a band, incorporating loops and building drums ourselves. And, so when it came time to record it, we were basically pulling favors, with friends and friends of friends. So there was a lot of hopping around to different studios, which was great. Nothing wrong with that. But, you get a bit of inconsistency when you're not in the same room all the time, with the ability to just sit and concentrate and not have to worry about tearing your gear down. So, when Tyne and I bought our current home, it was a huge priority if we could to find a house with a basement. And, we found this amazing house, built in the 50s, an old ranch that had an amazing basement, and it was kind of a blank canvas, and we knew we were going to do a renovation on the home. So, when we hired our contractor, I made sure that, he could do, it's not decoupled walls and all of that crazy shit that a real studio would have. I mean, there's still bleed into the main floor, but, we're lucky that 3 walls of the studio sit almost entirely underground. So my neighbors can't hear us at all when we rehearse, which is amazing. If you're standing in the kitchen, you can hear it. But so, yeah, I mean, kind of the long answer to your question was when we started writing Fashioner, we were writing it in my basement. So we didn't have to move our stuff around. Everything lived here. We could come down here whenever we wanted. And kind of our blue schedule, was Wednesday nights and Sundays, was kind of how we broke it out. And the songs came really fast on this one. I think we were much more comfortable this time around with what the band was. I think Broken Codes, we were trying to figure out what we were. So on Fashioner, it just felt like, oh, okay, this is what we are. So let's lean into that now that we have the space to do it and the gear to do it. So yeah, man, I mean, as soon as we got the skeleton of those songs written, Mark Nash came in and would engineer and produce, and we were tracking ideas very quickly, and having that, it was a game changer for us, having that freedom to just have as much time as we wanted to just explore the song. I think it led to some pretty expansive songs on Fashioner, whereas Broken Codes, I feel like I'm still very proud of it. I think there's some excellent songs on it. I just think this is much more our vision for where we want to take the band.
Mixed by Ken Andrews. How'd you guys get hooked up with Ken?
Man, like, when we're in the studio, man, like, our music is like really serious, but when we're down here, the four of us, it's pretty lighthearted, joking around. And Mark, he's like, I don't want to mix this record. It's too good. I'm gonna mess it up. And he's like, I want us to look into finding somebody else. And, we're in Nashville, so there's a million mix engineers that are super talented. So we figured we'd kind of, go that route because that's probably what we could afford, someone locally. But Mark was like, let's dream big and toss out some names, right? And I mean, Ken was the first name I tossed out. And the rest of us too. I'm probably the biggest Failure fan in the band, but Lance and Jesse are close behind me. So yeah, I mean, we were just joking around. I was like, Ken Andrews, and we all kind of laughed about it, not thinking that it would ever be a possibility. So that was that, and a couple of, I don't remember the timeline, but Mark circled back around and was like, look who responded to our email. Mark had sent Ken a blind email with a couple of the songs, rough mixes, and Ken said he liked it and was like, let's, I'd love to work on it. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy, that we sent a blind email to Ken, who's mixed some massive records, I mean, it was just amazing. It was one of those moments like, it just felt validating. And I know that word carries a lot of like baggage with it, but it was validating. We spend the majority of our free time outside of our families, and our jobs, making music. I mean, we put a lot of time in, and to have somebody you really look up to and whom you've admired and who is just, to me, a wizard at his craft. I mean, you listen to a Ken record and it's a Ken record. If you're an audiophile or a sonic nerd, I mean, Ken has a sound. And what was wild about working with him was he was so efficient, and we would send him a song and it was like the next day we had a mix. And no joke, almost the first mix of everything he sent was perfect. Like we sent him notes just to send him notes. But I mean, I put it in my car and I'm like, I would just be nitpicking to change any of this. Like, it sounds exactly how I heard it in my head, and I think that's a testament to working with people that you enjoy their work. It's like, you hear something in your head and then it's like, oh, well, Ken also hears that in his own way, and he can put his own signature on it, which he did. I mean, he added some things that we didn't put in that really changed some of the songs and made the songs better. I don't know, man. I don't want to sound all fanboy, but I mean, it really was a dream come true, and just a real pleasure to work with him. And I hope that if we continue to write and record, if he likes what we send, there may be an opportunity to continue working with him.
That's awesome. You guys have worked with Mark Nash for a long time. What led to the decision to just make him an official member of the band?
Oh, well, we've been trying to do that for years. Yeah.
He said yes, finally.
He said yes. It was like asking out a girl you really like a lot of times, and finally, she says yes. But, Mark has been the person behind the scenes from the beginning of, well, really, with our previous band, Celebrity, before I was even in the band, Mark was producing the band. So he always had his own take on what we did and his own influence. And without that influence, I don't think we would be who we are. So much so that, the first time we recorded Broken Codes, Mark was not a part of it, and it just didn't feel right. And, we asked him to come back on board, and we re-recorded it, and then it felt right again. So this time around, I think since we lived with Fashioner for a much longer period of time, and we were very intimate with it and with one another and talking about what we wanted to create, I think Mark started to feel, and this is just me projecting, more of a part of the decision making and what was happening. And we kept saying, hey man, do you want to do this? Like, do you want to come on board and be official? And, there was some hesitancy there on his part. And then, right around when we started nailing down plans for Fashioner, finalizing it, we had everything in the can, so to speak. And he's like, I want in. And we're like, all right, dude, you're in. So, it just felt holistic and organic for him to finally come on as a member, because really he is. He's pushing the knobs. He's making sure everything is getting tracked properly, but he's also contributing. He's a drummer. He plays keys. He can build loops. So he's kind of an auxiliary player for us, which is something we really need and really wanted. And I think, if and when we can play live music again, I think having Mark on board is going to make us performing live. He's going to be able to facilitate that more easily, because we're going to be able to have someone that can focus on making sure the loops are set up properly, while, Lance, Jesse, and I can focus on, playing our instruments, and take some of that kind of technical worry off of us. When we were talking about it before, the way we write, we tend to, before we even start writing, talk about what we want to write. And it's not like we want to write this type of song. It's more like, what sort of themes, what visual inspiration do we have? What television shows or movies are we watching that are inspiring us? What other music is inspiring us? So it's a very kind of deliberate process when we write. But thematically, Lance is our lyricist. But a lot of the themes are born out of, oh, this could be a cool song title. Well, what would that song title be about? So we had, an idea for Ghost in the Corner was something that we had tossed out there. And it's like, oh, that's kind of has a cool feel to it. Like, what would we want that song to be about? And then that kind of morphed into Leave It with the Ghost, which was this idea of, the ghost represents the past, your own past, and leaving things in the past that need to be left there. I think we're dealing with some pretty heavy themes overall on this one. There was a conversation that we had one night. Last year, 2019, was a rough year for everybody in the band. I had lost my dog and my job in the same week, which sounds like a country song when you say it out loud. And I was unemployed for 2 months, and all the guys, like Lance was in school and working full time, and had his son. Some of his sons were graduating high school. So there was a lot going on in 2019, personally for all of us. But Lance, Jesse, and I had a frank discussion one night, about depression, and that was kind of the emphasis of, or what led to Deep Dark, was this idea of, struggling with that and it feeling like a wave that can kind of overtake you. So, I think every song kind of has its own thematic element for sure. But it all ties into kind of what I see it as is our enduring friendship, the four of us. Like, that's what Fashioner is to me. It's like we've been playing music together since the four of us, since 2003. They had been playing longer than that. They started in 2001 because I joined Celebrity in 2003. So it's kind of this thread of our life of just our friendship, man. Like, I think that's what keeps us together and what keeps us playing is we really get along. We enjoy each other's time. And when we're writing, there's no egos and there's no fighting. It's just like, if something doesn't fit, we're all just like, all right, let's move on. That doesn't fit. Let's move on to the next idea. So to me, that's kind of the headline of Fashioner. It's about our friendship. It's about becoming an adult, entering middle age. I know that sounds uncool and not rock and roll, but it really is. I mean, it's about dealing with these themes of saying goodbye to your youth, which I think is very powerful. We're all in our 40s, and when you get into your 40s, you realize that like that ship has sailed, and that's okay. You're into this new phase of your life, which in many ways I feel is even richer. Just from a wisdom standpoint of how you approach your own life and even the experiences you have of raising a family. And I don't know, that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but there's a ton of themes in this one, but I think those are some of the overarching, ones that stand out to me that are very important and kind of mean a lot to me. Yeah, 2020 is just a complete clown show, man, on all levels. And in some way, it feels really weird to release music right now. And it feels weird to talk about it, because there's way more important things happening in the world. But at the same time, I think art heals people and can help people reflect. So maybe some folks will put on Fashioner and feel something. That's really all you could ask for. I think if you're putting something out there. And I think one other thing, just kind of to touch on, which is inconsequential to some people, but for us, we really we live in a single and playlist universe, and I'm totally okay with that. But we meant Fashioner to be listened to as a body, and something that was very important to us was the sequencing of this EP. And really, it's a record. It's over 30 minutes long. It's only 5 songs, but 30 minutes. So, it is a full length if you're looking at the track length. But, sequencing wise, we really tried to make every song flow into the next song so it feels like one piece of music. So hopefully, folks that are into that experience will have that experience with Fashioner. If not, if you just like one song, that's cool too.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our theme song was written and composed by the legendary Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe on iTunes and give the show a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, click on the Patreon link at asthestorygrows.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never thought